Good. Okay, good. Okay, well, let's get started. How many of you heard my talk a few minutes ago? Yes, most of you? Okay. Well, I'll do this very briefly. So as you know, I was the CEO of SRI for 16 years, and when I went, it was failing. It was about to go bankrupt. The buildings were falling down, and everybody hated each other. And when we left, we got to the point where we were creating one big innovation after another. And we were also growing the core business. So we had two businesses, basically. We had a core R&D business, working with people around the world. And we also had a ventures business where we would take and create new ventures. And so here's a list of some of them. And so when I left, we were recognized, I think, as being one of the most productive research organizations in the world for its size. We were only 2,500 people, but nevertheless, we learned how to do that. So to the extent possible, it'd be great if you all would just briefly tell us your name, your organization, and one thing you'd like to learn today. Can you do that? Miguel, can you start us? You're up on the top of my screen.
Was it me or? Was it me?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My name is Inga-Lill Holmqvist and I'm working for a consultancy firm called Knowit in Sweden. And what I want to learn today is really how to focus more on value and how to actually define value.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, we're definitely going to do that. Okay. Miguel, back to you.
Hi, I'm Miguel Fonseca from CGI. What I want to learn today. So I think managing crisis and give me a sec because I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry. I stay with another open window.
Okay.
I think the innovation that you could create in products with the value that we gave to our clients is very interesting, and how to increase this value, the client's needs, and what you pretend to give to the clients for better. For the better knowledge that
Okay.
from the application against the expectation with the client.
Okay, we'll definitely cover that.
That is.
Mariana, how about you? Is it Mariana?
Hi, hello. My name is Mariana. I work at an insurance company here in Portugal. Fidelidade. I'm working at Enterprise Agile, and with this section, I want to understand how to innovate and how to overcome the dilemmas that are related to the innovation.
Great. Okay. Antonio, how about you?
Hello, Curtis. So we have a small physical audience here in Lisbon. I will invite all the attendees, physical attendees, to present themselves. So this is Antonio.
Hi.
Oh, there you are.
I work in the bank, Caixa Geral de Depósitos, and I want to learn to create an innovation product, a real innovation product that have a value for the customers.
Okay, we're definitely going to discuss that. Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, we have Octavio now.
Hello, hi everyone. My name is Otávio. I work at Bank BPI. We are a full implementation in Agile about from 10 years ago. Right now we are working on flow concepts. and what's next? What is the innovation that comes forward? Thank you very much.
Okay, good. It helps. Okay, I got to understand my customers here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I am Carlos. I am from CGV also, and I want to learn what innovations bring to business.
What innovation? Say that one more time.
Okay. Carlos wants to know what innovation can bring to the business.
Okay, everything.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Elsa. Elsa Costa from CGV. Hello, can you hear me? I'm also from CGV. I want to learn how can we really innovate to bring a digital transformation to a bank. Okay.
Oh, good one. Good one. That's a good one. Yeah.
So that is all from Lisbon, Kurt. Oh, sorry, Mario. Mario was hiding.
Hello.
Hi, Mario.
I'm Mario Pereira from Portugal. I'm responsible for software development. We are using Agile from 2011, and I want to learn if there is a relation between innovation for impact and disruption.
Innovation for
being
impact.
Disruptive and being or developing a disruptive product.
Say that one more time.
Being disruptive or developing a disruptive product.
We're definitely going to talk about that. But we're going to talk about from incremental all the way to disruptive.
Okay.
Right, for sure.
Okay.
Okay, we all set? Okay. So let me ask you all a question. Maybe just raise your hand. Is everybody in your team and your company customer focused? Everybody, 100%? 100%. 100%. I have one hand so far. Okay, one hand. Do you have a value creation process that all of your employees can describe? Can actually describe your value creation process? Anybody want to raise their hand? Antonio, did you raise your hand? No. So I'm not sure I'm getting any hands here. Well, so this is an issue, right? Because your job is to create value for your customers, right? So do you have any other job other than creating value for your customers? Does anybody have any other job? That's it, right? That's it. Okay. Well, if your team doesn't know how to do that, what does that mean? What does that mean? I'm going to have to call on my few folks here. Mariana, what does that mean if nobody can describe their innovation system? What does that mean?
Well, we are not delivering the value we must deliver to our customers, and we are not responding to their needs.
No, you're not, right? So that's that's the
That's
deal.
a problem, and that's a big bad for the future.
It is bad for the future, very bad.
Yes.
So, so you heard me say, you know, this expression that people talk about all the time, to fail fast, to succeed early, and that's a really dumb idea. I mean, that's really a dumb idea because, of course, we understand that when we do new things, we're going to make lots of mistakes, and we're not going to be successful. But the goal is really to learn and create fast. Learn and create fast. It's all about learning. It's learning in a very tough environment. Some of the speakers have talked about it being a complex environment, not a complicated one. Complex ones are where there are things that you don't know and they're all interacting with each other. So that's the world we live in. And so then the question is, how do you learn the best? So any thoughts about that? We lost Mariana, at this point, you're going to be the only person I can call.
Okay. What are the ways to learn and create fast?
How do you learn best?
Well, we must be able to learn, and we must want to learn and recognize that we don't know everything, and that it's and that we have a lot of things to know, and we need to understand the needs around us. Of course, failing fast may help us recovering fast, but it can also be not very good for motivation, but it's a process. So
that's a great answer. Great answer. All that's terrific. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We'll talk more about that in a second. But that's basically where we're coming from. So when I started, I used to work for RCA and then GE. I worked for these big companies. They sent me to all these training programs. They didn't help at all. Nothing helped at all. And then we became part of SRI, and instead of them giving me tens of millions of dollars to spend every year, they now expected me to earn tens of millions of dollars a year. And I realized I didn't know how. You're not taught that in most companies. You're just not. You know, as I mentioned, we've done workshops with over 500 teams from the biggest companies in the world, universities, the best universities you can imagine, startups, and people don't know. They're not taught. We weren't taught. But my best friend came in and he said, by the way, my best friend happened to graduate first in his class at the University of Chicago 2 years early. And then he went to the institute where Einstein was working. He was a smart guy. But Norman, his name is Norman Oski, Norman said, Kurt, it's like everything else we have to learn. So for the last 25 years, that's been our goal, is how do you learn to innovate faster? What are the best techniques? So this conference obviously is wonderful because it's all about that. It's about what are ways we can all do a better job, have a bigger impact on our customers. It's about learning. So that's how we got started. And as I mentioned in my talk, we're going to basically keep coming back to 3 ideas. Working on important opportunities, not just interesting ones. Because if you don't work on things that matter to your customers, it doesn't matter. You won't make an impact. Do you have a shared language for customers? So you all work in companies with people with different backgrounds and different disciplines, and they all have their own language. But what's the one language you ought to have? What's the one language you must have? It's the language that describes the customer and how to develop value for them. And very few organizations have that. So here's the first experiment you can do after this workshop when you go home. Go to your team, give them some Post-it notes, some sticky notes, and have them write down the definition for innovation, customer value, and a value proposition. 3 things: innovation, their job, value creation, innovation, customer value, the thing you're supposed to deliver, and a value proposition. And then have them put the sticky notes on the wall and see what you get. Now, again, I've done that probably 1,000 times. And we always get the same result. How many of you, raise your hand, think that we get agreement all the time? How many of you think we get agreement? Do they agree on those 3 ideas? What do you think? Is it 100%? 80%? 60? 40? 20? 0. How about 0? It's 0. they have no shared language, which means they can't communicate with each other. They can't effectively. I mean, they do. It's just inefficient. So we'll talk about that. And the third thing is, how do you learn fast? If you agree that learning, it's a question of learning fast, not failing fast, then the question is, how do you learn fast? And we're going to tell you an idea for doing that. Okay, I need a volunteer. I don't know, Mariana, are you going to be a volunteer again? You're such a good sport. Thank you.
I think I should pass my opportunity to someone else, but
Yeah.
if there isn't anyone who wants to volunteer.
Well, let's start with you and then see if somebody else would like to volunteer.
Okay,
So,
I'll do my best.
so I'd like you to give your 1 minute presentation that you would give to a customer for why they have to work with you.
Okay. Okay, so I need to understand why I'm the best with
Why you're the best value for them, yeah.
Yes. Well, in my particular case, I would say that the best reasons to work with me and with the company that I work for is the post-selling services that we provide to our customers. So our clients can feel supported by us, and in any moment we will be there to help them and to try to resolve the problems in the best way possible. So that's something that you can not always count on anywhere. Well,
Okay.
it's not easy.
No, that's good. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
You know, how could she have done a better job?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
How could we help her do a better job? So all positive, by the way. Everything we're going to do today is going to be fun and positive. So that's really important. So Miguel, how could she improve? It's about learning, right? It's about, we're learning here. We're learning.
Mariana?
Yep.
I think we need to create tools to be more proactive in innovation. That is the reason why I'm asking you in the beginning to explore this item, to give the client our vision of what is more important to the customer to develop first.
Okay.
What they believe in sometimes. I think we need to have some tools to do that.
Okay.
And that is the way that I'm seeing. Is not being just proactive, but to explain with some framework or like that,
Right.
the way.
Okay, well, that's good. So that's really helpful. If you had given a framework for how you do that, that would have been more effective for him. Now, how about somebody at the table there? How about number one? I'm gonna give you numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. So number one will be the plaid shirt there with the black mask. Can you be number one?
Me?
Yeah, you're number one.
Mario is number one.
Okay. So
You want me to help Mariana?
yeah, if you were the customer, would you hire her after that presentation?
It depends. She must deliver more details.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that. Okay. So we're going to be playing this game of what was good, what did you like, what could be improved, eyes of the customer, eyes of the investor. And we're going to be looking at what we do from those different perspectives because they all matter, right? They all matter. Okay, well, thank you for being a great sport. Let's move on a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about innovation. Okay, so what is the definition of innovation? How about number 2 at the table there? Again, I'm sorry, I can't remember the names. In the white mask, yeah? Yeah? What's the definition of innovation?
Innovation is create something that customers cannot find in the market.
Yeah.
And there are no clear solution for their needs. If we create a product that could answer that need and correspond to that need, maybe, I don't know if this is the definition, we're creating innovation.
Okay, that's good. What else? Somebody want to add to that?
First, I can.
Okay.
Sorry, Mariana.
You go.
Okay, I'm Paula from the Experience Agile team. So I think innovation is also about delivering in better ways than the existent ones, faster, and more according to customer expectations.
Okay, good. Those are all good examples. Yep. One more.
Is there something connected to creating trends?
Creating. Paul, can you help me out here? It's hard for me to hear with the people.
Creating, Mario suggesting innovation is also about creating a trend, market trend.
Ooh, that's interesting. Interesting perspective. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Well, so how many of you heard this expression? Build a better mousetrap, and the world will build a path to your door. You all heard that? Everybody hear that?
No.
My grandfather was a salesperson of cheese a long time ago, so he had some of that at home.
Okay. Well, okay. This is, in America, this is a phrase, and there have been 6,000 mousetraps built. How many of them do people actually buy? Do you think? Raise your hands again. Do you think they buy all 6,000? How about 1,000? How about 100? Anybody for 100? How about 40? How about 10? It's about 10.
Maybe 10.
It's about 10. So what are those other 6,000 mousetraps that people don't buy? What are they called? What are they called? They have a name. They got a patent, right? So they're new. You can build them. They didn't break the law. What do we call them? Any thoughts? How about number 4 at the table in the dark shirt?
Obsolete?
What do we call them?
Obsolete?
Well, that's true too. Yes, for sure. For sure, yes.
Money trap.
They're called what?
Money trap.
Oh, well, that's true. Yeah, they are. Yes, they're inventions. They're not innovations. They're inventions. So, so value creation. What we're talking about is solving important customer market needs better than any alternative. That's what we're doing. Delivering value to the customer is one of those stakeholders. Innovation is delivery of new customer value in the marketplace with a viable business model. If there's no business model, nobody cares, there's no customer, and it goes away. So almost all of those 6,000 mousetrap patents are inventions, and only about a dozen of them are innovations. And yes, they're money traps. They're a waste of time. A lot of them are fun, so I guess you could say they have that value. But what we need to do, what everyone here needs to do, is not only deliver value right to our customers, but also do it in a sustainable way so they keep on coming back. We want them to come back and come back and come back and come back. Okay. So here's a test. Have you all seen a ketchup bottle upside down? You all seen that? Everybody seen that? How many of you were surprised when you saw it upside down? How many of you were surprised? Weren't you a little surprised? I was surprised.
Yeah.
I was surprised. It's like, oh, wow. This means I don't have to pound on the end of the ketchup bottle, and I'm not going to spill it all over my table and my friends. So I went, wow, that makes perfect sense. So I was a little surprised. It's a big surprise. It's a little surprise, but I was surprised. So this is one of the things that we look for when we look at new innovations. Are we surprised? A little or a lot? If we're not surprised, probably there are 100 other people doing the same thing. Your job, whatever it is to be able to surprise your customers, at least a little, in terms of what you do and why it's uniquely valuable. That makes sense? Somebody want to add to that? Yeah, all makes sense? Okay, so we'll move on. Okay, so the next one, what's the definition of customer value? Anybody have an idea?
Customer value could be when the solution.
Paolo, you're going to have to help me out here because I can't hear.
Are you seeing me? Are you here?
Yeah.
Customer value could be when customers find a solution in the product that we deliver.
Yep. Okay, that's a good example. Yeah.
When we met the needs of the customer,
yep.
We are creating value to them.
Correct. Good. So that's good. That's a good example. What else? Anybody else?
Okay, I can try. When you solve a problem for the customer. When the customer has a problem and you have a solution for the problem.
Right. Okay. Those are good examples. Good. Those are good examples. So in my talk, I used a more general definition. A value is customer benefits over customer costs. So obviously there are lots of different ways you can deliver benefits. So Mariana mentioned that she's provides very reliable services. That's really important to people, right? So that's a kind of benefit for some customers. When you buy a car, for example, what are some of the costs of buying a car? Just quickly. The price. Okay, what else?
The maintenance.
Maintenance, good. What else?
Insurance.
Insurance, what else?
Gas.
What else? Okay, well, you get the idea. So every service comes with a package of benefits and a package of costs, right? And your job as professionals is to figure out the best way to do that for your customers. So I gave the example of the phones. Some people still like keypads. Go figure. Most people like a touch screen. So only your customers figure out the benefits and the costs. So as I say here on this slide, benefits and costs are as perceived, it's perceptual. Everything in value is about how people perceive what you do. And in a way, you know, what you think only matters if they like what you're doing, right? It makes sense? Okay. So with that, we now have a couple definitions. So now here's the big one. Here's the big hard one. You ready for this? What's the definition of a value proposition? Let me ask you this before you volunteer. How many of you use this phrase? How many of you say, what is the value proposition? Do you all use that term? Are you all familiar with that? Do you all say that? I don't know what that would be in Portuguese. Does it translate directly into Portuguese?
Proposta de valor.
It means the same thing?
Exactly the same thing, yes.
Perfect. Okay. So do you all use this? I didn't see any hands. Right? You all use, okay, good. Okay, so we have agreement. Okay, so since we all use this term, let's see if we agree. So let's see, how about number 3 at the table there, with the white mask, and yeah, there you go. Sorry.
Idea that the product or some advice to meet like to surprise the customer to get that
Did you hear, Curtis?
No, I can't hear it, I'm sorry.
I will try to repeat. So it's when a company tries to meet the needs of a client and surprise the client at the same time.
Okay, that's good. Okay. We need to be more specific than that, but that's good. Anybody else want to add something to that?
Okay. I can try. Okay. When the customer understands the value of the cost they buy for the product.
So
when the client understands benefits of the cost of the product.
So it's when the client recognizes the benefits for what he pays.
yes.
Yeah, good. I like the fact that you added understands, right? Because if they don't understand it, then we have a problem. So that was good. Okay, that adds some more to it. Now, we, over the last 25 years, we've tried every definition you can imagine for a value proposition. And what we found is most of them don't work. They're either incomplete, they don't answer all the questions, or they're too complicated. If they're incomplete, then you don't end up in the right place. And if they're too complicated, people can't remember them and they can't do it. And particularly in the beginning. So, Miriam, I ask you another question. When you start a new project, how much do you know?
I just know what is supposed to be at some point, but I barely know anything about it. I have to search and to try to figure out how to do and to proceed with my projects.
Brilliant, perfect. So our little joke when we do workshops is we have somebody say nothing. So as you can imagine, given my background, you know, I have 2 Emmys, so that's an Emmy over there, over my shoulder. I've helped create 20 companies. And I would tell you, every time we started, when I look back, we basically knew nothing. Nothing. Almost everything we thought was wrong. So you might say it was negative because we didn't know anything, you know. So in the beginning, you don't know much. So what we want to do is use a framework where we answer in the beginning the most important questions and don't get lost in all the details. So we have decided that there are 4 fundamental questions. And the first one is, what's the customer need, right? No surprise. The second is, what's the approach? And the approach includes both the product, the offering, the service, and the business model, because we just discussed if there's no business model, it goes away. It's not an innovation. What are the benefits per cost, which you'll now recognize is the value to the customer of the idea? And how does that compare to the competition and the alternatives? Just 4 questions: need, approach, benefits per cost, and competition. Now, how about number 1 at the table? If the need changes, what happens to the other 3 parts of this little equation? What happens if the need changes? Then what happens to the approach, benefits per cost, and the competition?
You said number 1, right, Curtis?
Yes, please.
So, Mario.
You have to adapt.
Say it again.
You have to, if the need changes, you have to adapt your approach and your proposal, everything.
Everything changes, right? So when you start and you don't know very much, these 4 questions are moving around a lot. They're moving around a lot. And if it was a complicated thing, if there were 10 questions, for example, and they were moving around, it would be terribly confusing, terribly inefficient. So when you start, you don't know much, so you want to answer the most fundamental questions. Now, number 2 at the table, what would happen if we took away one of these questions? Would it be complete then? Would we know what we're doing? Take away one question and see what happens.
I'm free to remove it.
Yeah, you remove one. Pick one, remove one.
I would like to remove competition.
Okay, so what happens then?
So if I'm removing competition, probably I could match the needs of my clients because there are no alternative.
If there's no alternative. So if I understood you, you said I could take away the competition if it turns out there's no alternative. Did you say that?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess that's true. How many times have you done something in your life when there's no competition or alternative?
Can you repeat, please?
Can you repeat, Curtis?
Yes. So, I mean, it's true that if there's no competition and you have the only solution, then I guess you could take away the competition. But how many times in your life have you been in business where there was no competition? How many times? Yep.
Every time.
Every time, yes.
In my business, I have no competition.
Yeah.
You have no competition.
Yes, I'm in the military.
Oh, in the military.
So I have to understand and fulfill all the needs, having in mind that nobody else will do it, and I have to do my best.
I see. Okay, well that's a little complicated for this, but I get the point. But you also get the point that there's almost always competition. There's almost always serious competition for alternatives. So even if you're doing a project inside of a company, let's say you're in the finance department, you identify a need, you come up with an approach. Hopefully it makes sense from a business point of view, so it's sustainable. It has certain benefits and costs. And there are different alternatives you could consider for doing the same job. So even if it's inside of a company, answering these 4 questions, I think, is really fundamental. Now, here's a thing that happened at SRI. So we had 2,500 people. Now, did all of them understand everything about innovation and value creation? No. Maybe I would say we had, out of 2,500 people, we probably had 50 people who were really good at it. I mean, really good at it. I mean, we're creating billion-dollar businesses, right? They were really good at it. But everybody understood at least this much, everybody. So when anyone came in, even the janitors knew this. Everyone knew this. So when anybody came in with a project, they knew that the discussion had to start with the what. Every conversation started with what. Any volunteers? What did it have to start with? The customer. The customer. So the entire company, with 2,500 people, from the janitors to the CEOs of our companies, all understood that every initiative, every project had to answer these 4 questions, and it had to start with the customer. Now imagine what a change that makes. Imagine. It is it is huge. And just getting people to understand these 4 questions. Now, if you're going to take anything from this workshop, if you're going to learn anything from our discussion today, this is it. If you can go back and remember this, when one of your colleagues comes in, ask them to answer these 4 questions and see how they do. And you can then work with each other back and forth to make it better before you go visit customers. So I was the CEO of the company, so I'm always giving presentations to other CEOs and to other customers. I would practice these 4 questions dozens of times. When we created high definition television, that Emmy, that little trophy over there, I practiced that pitch at least 1,000 times. At least. For 3 months, I did nothing but practice my presentation because at the time it seemed impossible. And I had to have good answers for the need, the approach, the business model, and why we could win over everybody else. And it took me months of practice with my team. Okay, so here's what we're after. We want to address an important customer and market need with a new, compelling, and defensible approach, product and business model that has superior benefits per cost when compared to the competition and the alternatives. Those 4 things. Now, Mariana, can I put you on the spot again? You're such a good sport. Can I ask you one? Okay.
Yes.
So could you use this framework, need, approach, benefits per cost, competition, and give the value proposition for what you offer once again? This is not easy, but you know, I've done thousands of these, and I can't tell you, every time I do them, it's just as hard the first time. It's not easy.
Yes, it's not easy.
No, but you're a good sport, so it'll be great.
The new compelling and
don't worry about it too much. Just
I'm completely blocked right now.
No.
I wasn't expecting this, but I'll try.
So let me unblock you. I'll give you a tip that'll help.
Yes.
Say the need. Say need, and then say what you think the need is. Then say our approach, and say what it is. And then say benefits per cost, and then say what they're. So use that word to start each part of your presentation.
Okay, so the need is, okay, I'll say this in my particular case or as a general.
In your case.
Okay. So the need I would identify as protection. The approach, well, identifying exactly where we need to, what we need to protect, okay, in our clients, customers, in this case. Benefits and costs. Well, delivering the best product and the best support, but has costs. We have the product's price and HR resources, competition and alternatives. I have no idea how to overcome this one. If anyone can help here, could help here.
Okay. Well, listen, so you're a great sport, and that's what they always start out being. So we as I said, I mean, I've done thousands of these with I can't name companies, but imagine some of the top 10 companies in the world. And these are all people who've been educated at the best schools, Harvard, MIT, Stanford, right? They've been in business for 10 years. They've spent millions of dollars on their projects.
Yes.
And so far, not one person has ever been able to answer just these 4 questions in a compelling, quantitative way. And after a 2-day workshop, as I said, at the end of the 2-day workshop, typically 70% of what they're working on goes away. Because they decide it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So, okay. So if we were doing this now, again, I'll say more about this in just 2 seconds. We would then, we'd have 5 people in the room do what you just did. And in each case, we give them feedback, okay? So that's what we do. Okay. So team, so why do most projects fail? Let's go to our table. How about number 4? Why do most initiatives fail?
What's needs would be not clearly understood by the who create the product.
That's it. That's number 1, right? People don't understand the need. That's number 1. Okay, great. What's another important reason?
Too much focus on the approach. On the solution.
Too much
focus on the
help me out here.
Focus on the solution.
To focus only in the solution and not in the approach.
Brilliant. Perfect. Okay, what's another one?
Don't take care about the needs of the competition, the problem that the competition has to fulfill our understanding of what is the concrete need and what differs of our approach.
Brilliant. Okay, those are all good. Another one that we see all the time is being either too early or too late. But you're right. The first one is always the customer need, right?
Yeah.
So in my talk, I mentioned that having listened to thousands and thousands of presentations, they basically all look like this when you get started. They're all basically We call these big A's. People come in and they assume they know the need. That's rule number one. They don't know the need. They're in love with their approach. They want to talk about their approach for hours. And they assume the benefits are wonderful and there's no competition. This is like a rule. I mean, I was in Sweden last year to decide the top Swedish venture to come to America. And these are brilliant people. They're wonderful people. There were 10 of them, and there were 3 of us, and we listened to these presentations. They were all this. We couldn't decide who had the best company. It was impossible because they didn't tell us what we needed to know. So when you work with your buddies and you ask them to answer these 4 questions, they'll probably want to tell you all about their idea. And that's not enough. If you can't describe your value proposition, you still don't really know what you're doing. So, Mariana, in the beginning, how much do you know? Are you saying nothing?
Sorry, I was having technical problems.
No problem.
Sorry, I didn't understand your question.
I said in the beginning, how much do you know? I was going back to our little nothing.
Yes, I knew barely nothing.
Nothing.
Yes.
So if you can't answer these 4 questions, at that point, you really don't know anything.
Yes.
You know nothing.
I know, yeah.
So you gotta answer, trust me on this one, you gotta be able to answer at least these 4 questions. Okay. So how do we learn faster? How do we actually answer these questions? It's hard. It's hard. It takes hundreds of iterations just to answer these 4 questions. And we're just beginning, right? We're not answering all the questions. We're just beginning here. So we hold meetings. We call them value creation forums. And this is where we would all, in my company, we would all come in every, let's say, 4 weeks. And there'd be 6 teams like this. We have 6 people here today, 7 people here today. And we would all stand up and in a few minutes, a couple minutes, give the value proposition for what we were working on. They'd all be terrible. Mine, terrible, terrible, all terrible. And, but we were there because we wanted to learn fast enough to be successful. And of course, as the CEO of the company, it was kind of fun because I would stand up there and be as bad as anybody else. So I was role modeling the fact that everybody had to do this because nobody is smart enough in today's world. So, and then you'd get feedback, which I'll talk about. And as I mentioned, a kind of amazing thing happens when you do it this way. Oh, and I forgot. The speaker would be silent after they gave their presentation. So they would give it a couple minutes, and then we'd give them feedback, and they'd stand there quietly. No arguing back. When people argue, they stop listening, and it becomes kind of, it doesn't feel right. You know, then you're getting in these arguments. And that's not the right idea. That's a terrible idea. It's about learning. But an interesting thing would happen is people would give their NABC, and so like I asked Mariana, they'd literally say, my need is, my approach is, my benefits per cost are, my company. They would say that, and we would see whether they actually answered those questions. And then the next team would stand up and they would do it. And most of them would be pretty bad in the beginning, but because they're all smart people, somebody would do a better job and everybody would see. Now, oh, that's what it means. Oh, that's what it means. So we're going to talk about some tricks to make this better. but we would teach people things and they would begin to notice. And the result would be that every time people presented, the entire team would get better. And it was kind of magical what happened. We lost our group. So they're probably there somewhere, but let's see, they're there. Okay, so that's what we did. So we would have a facilitator in the room, and they would ask these questions. What was good? Keep it. Eyes of the customer. Ways to improve it, to fix it, make it better. And eyes of the investor. And then we'd ask somebody to look at the feedback. How good was the feedback? How can we make the feedback better? And somebody on the team would take notes because we're not doing work in this forum. We're basically giving people ideas. And the whole spirit of this feedback process is that feedback is a gift. When it's done positively, when it's done constructively, it's a gift. Most people don't run meetings this way. And you know, it's one of the beautiful things about Agile is that Agile worries not only about the results, but also what happens to the people, right? You want to support your people and you want to help them be successful. The goal is not to give them a hard time and beat them up, right? The goal is to help them be successful. So these meetings it's a rule. They're completely positive meetings. And it's just amazing. I mean, I've already told you basically most of the secrets where we took an organization that had been failing for 20 years and became so productive. I don't think there's been another lab of our size that has ever created every 3 or 4 years another multi-billion-dollar business. I mean, Intuitive Surgical is a $60 billion company. That's a serious company. But we applied it to everything. We applied it to incremental innovation too. So we were always doing incremental stuff, right? Or even going to visit a customer. Every time I would go visit a customer, I would write down my value proposition and then I would practice it with the team. So that's how we ran the company. Okay. So what happened to our table? Did we lose I need to call on our table. We need our table.
Sorry, Curtis. We are here.
Apollo, since I can understand you the best, would you mind giving us your NABC for your value proposition for what you do?
Sure. My example, one example for me.
Yeah. So tell us who a customer would be for you.
Sorry.
Who's a customer?
Can I give a real example? Can I give a real example?
Please, it'd be even better. Yeah, a real customer.
So I work for Agile Thinkers, and we just launched a new product that I just convinced myself that I need to practice my value proposition because it's a new product. The need, why the need? So we have been working in Portugal for 2 years with several companies that need Agile training, Agile coaching, and we noticed that almost every company have like one course or send their employees to a 2-day course or 2 courses, 2-day courses, and at the end they don't do much with those courses that they attend. So we thought, what about creating an Agile Academy that offers the clients the possibility to train from the beginning at an awareness level with about mindset, about frameworks, methods, understand the real meaning of Agile, and if the client needs and wants to evolve, he can choose a second path or a third path. So we created a new product with that approach. So we need training, but we also need to apply. So the need is not only training, there are enough trainings all over the world, but the clients need to apply. They need to understand how to apply. So these academies include mentoring and practical assignments. After the first program, where everyone learns about mindset, values, frameworks, methods, so they start practicing and understanding how Agile applies to their own business. And at the end, if someone wants to evolve to become Agile coach or Scrum Master, he can attend the third program. It's the business transformation model. What's the benefit? So the benefit is that you can attend an online training 4 hours per day with the most amazing Agile coaches and trainers. Some published authors, some of them published authors, some of them speaking today and during this week. The benefit is that the person will have someone mentoring, individual mentoring, helping the person to understand their real needs. And the person will be asked to put in practice all that she has learned during the training. So there's not, in Portugal, there's not a product like that one. I don't know anyone. So training, mentoring, coaching, master classes with published authors, and for a very fair price. That's for a very fair price. For a very fair price. So it's less. It is. So, and we have other benefits. So we have. Yes, it is. We made the company. So we also have a partnership with Landing Jobs. That is a company that helps to find better jobs and helps also companies to find better practitioners in the market. So we have established a partnership with them. So every attendee that is out of work will have the help of that partner. And yes, partnerships. We also have the recognition of Boston University Agile Innovation Lab. And every attendee gets a free ticket for next experience Agile. So that's all they needed. So.
Okay, well that was great. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you. You're a great sport.
Am I ready to sell this? Am I ready? Am I ready, Curtis, to go and sell these academies?
No.
I can book a private workshop with you. So.
But I would say you did a really good job. Thank you for that. So Agile doesn't stick. Well, let me ask. So the team, did just using the framework help you organize what she was doing? Did it at least help do that?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question very well.
So I asked you to use the framework, and you did. And I'm asking the team whether, because it was organized into these 4 categories, did that help them understand what you were doing?
Yes, completely.
Completely, okay.
Yeah, yes, it totally helped.
Okay, it helped. Okay, so so I thought it was interesting, by the way. Well, let me ask before I go into this and give you the feedback. How about number 1 at the table? What did you like about what she did?
What? Sorry?
What did you like? What did she do well?
What did I like? I like the main idea.
The main idea. What does that mean?
She fully understands the problem.
Okay.
Not always easy. It's not always easy.
It's not easy.
Even it's usually the customer himself not to explain the real problem. So in this particular case, Paula understood the needs. Even I think nobody told you that this is a real problem. So you identify this problem. Your company identify the problem.
But based on client, many needs. Oh, sorry.
We're going to ask Paul to be quiet now. Okay. Number two at the table. What would really improve it? What's the one idea to improve it?
I think I understand the question.
How could she do better? What could she do better?
I think maybe she can explore more the benefits and through new ways in the new solution in substitute of online for hours, for example. Yeah. You can, I think if there is nothing like this in the market, you should try to understand more solutions to sell better your benefits.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
To create more impact, to give an idea what are the main benefits and what in the future could be the gain with that knowledge of this.
Okay, good. Okay, so number three, you're a buyer. You're the CEO of a company. Would you buy this service? You're the CEO of a company, and would you buy Paulo's service?
I need to see the competition. What are the offers in the market in the same product? And maybe more detail about price. And understand a little more about the offer.
Okay. Okay. So number four, you're an employee in the company. So your CEO comes in and says, "I got this new thing I want you to do." Are you going to agree to cooperate on this new program, on Paulo's new program?
Maybe. Because I don't understand what I have find out that what is the problem for me.
No,
okay. You need that I repeat?
Help me out, Paulo. I'm having trouble here.
António, projeta a voz.
I'm not sure if I agree, because I don't understand what I gain in the final day with this proposition.
Yep, good. Okay, so Miguel, is there something we've forgotten to, some piece of advice we've forgotten to tell Paul here? What have we missed so far?
I think he's very complete to this situation. I think Paula should train a little bit more, because I think it was clear enough for me to understand what she's selling and what are the benefits. Even I collaborate with Paula some days ago to do some of these workshops for our teams, and your approach with the NABC approach in a simple way, you could answer for several topics that are mandatory for us to understand the value proposition. So with a little bit more training, it will be nice to have this conversation. The value proposition should be more clear.
Right. And I think we could do that. I think there's a good story here if we were to do this. So you probably noticed that I just moved some things around because you put in your benefits part of your approach, right? So your approach is to have an academy with mentoring in real work. It's going to be online 4 hours. You're going to provide continuous online mentoring. Learning while working is the most effective way I know of to teach these things. And you've got partnerships to support the program. So that's kind of your approach. So what we're missing, and by the way, the need wasn't bad. I would say there are several needs here though. One is this is kind of like a need why your product doesn't work. But there's a reason in the company why it doesn't work. And we haven't really discussed that yet. So in other words, I think you're right. If you don't teach it this way, it doesn't stick. But the real problem is what's going on ultimately in the company for why it doesn't stick. So anyway, just so you know, this would be the beginning of a real discussion about the question I asked Miguel, I guess number 4 at the table, which is not only do we have to sell this to management to solve the problem, it's not sticking, but we also have to figure out organizationally whether the people are going to want it. Okay, but it's a good start. Now, benefits for costs. That's where we kind of had trouble, and saying there's no competition is obviously not true. Sorry.
In Portugal.
How in Portugal? I don't know. I mean, how many people are teaching Agile in Portugal? Are you the only people?
No, not teaching, but a complete program that includes mentoring, coaching, practical assignments, partnerships with job seeking companies.
Okay, well, so here's what I would do if I were you. I would be able to name those companies, and I would say what you just told me, which is, yes, there are many people teaching Agile in Portugal, but we're the only ones who have addressed these problems that you have. The problem that it doesn't stick, a problem that it doesn't scale, the problem that it's not cost effective, the problem that my employees won't do it, even if I ask them to. Those are big problems. And then you come along and you say, well, we now have solved those problems by having this online mentoring and program. And none of those other programs do it. So you do have competition, but you are trying to differentiate yourself. Mm-hmm. Okay, the last one is benefits per cost. You actually have lots of benefits if you started to write them down. One is what you did mention, online. Now, why is that important? You didn't tell me why that's important, really, other than that it's online. But it really is important, right? Yes. So I'm not going to give you my answer to all this stuff. But I'm just saying that if you were in a meeting with people in this room, if it were easier for us to do this, we would actually be able to, in a couple hours, improve your value proposition, I don't know, 5 times, 100% easily, just by asking these basic questions. I want to give you some more tips. So let me see.
Yes, Curtis, we have a couple more minutes also for Q&A. Okay. So I would say about 10 more minutes.
Okay, I'll just make one more point and then we'll do that. Sure. Okay. So answering these questions is hard. That's what I've been trying to say. But if you focus on the fundamentals, you can really improve what you do, really. And here are a couple more tips. So no bigger, better, faster, cheaper. I don't know how much bigger is. I don't know what fair price is. I don't know. You have to be specific and quantitative. When in doubt, give a range. You're not always going to know exactly, but tell people the range. And use figures, graphs. And this, I love this. A bad picture is often better than a good description. If you can, show a picture of what you're doing. So with that, that's the last tip. So if you walk away again with one idea from this workshop, if you think about NABC, every time you do something, every time you listen to a colleague, it will focus everybody on the customer. It applies to everybody. It's fundamental. It's efficient and effective. And if everybody does this, it'll transform your company. So with that, Paulo, what do you want to do next? That's our workshop for today.
First of all, to thank you for your fantastic advices. I will put in practice for sure. And now I would like to invite all the attendees to put some questions, to address some questions to you.
Yep.
So, Mariana, do you want to start?
Yes, I can start. I actually have one question. I would like to understand, how do we know if we are on the right track to develop a good value proposition?
Well, it's again, your colleagues can help you do that. I think if you keep the framework in mind, yep. If you make it quantitative, specific, and write down, what you know, and then give. So one of the rules that we had at SRI is everybody at least needs a buddy. Everybody needs at least a partner. So you can practice this back and forth, at least that. And we would do that. We'd go back and forth. How can we make this better? How can we make this better? And of course, ultimately, you have to go talk to customers and you have to try it out. And you need to go see what the competition is doing. So, all the things that you know. But this framework will help you be much more, I think, efficient at doing that. Great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
What else?
We have a new element. Sorry, I was hiding. Somewhat.
The fifth element.
The fifth element.
Oh boy, I wish I'd known you were there. I wish I'd known you were there.
Yeah. Before Jari, so estamos a terminar. Yeah. One question. One final question before we. Oh, Carlos has a question. So, Curtis, Carlos asks, what is the best way to get feedback?
The best way to get feedback? Well, again, I think having a framework is fundamental. Otherwise, feedback is all over the place. So first off, you need the framework to help focus it. It always has to be positive, how to be better. eyes of the customer, eyes of the investor. Be very specific about what kind of feedback you're asking for. And I think it always takes more than one person. It takes a team to have people look at what you're doing from these different perspectives. It's the team part of it that you're constantly asking everybody. So again, if I were you, it's what I do. If I'm doing something new, I write down my best estimate for these 4 questions, and then I start showing it to people and asking them. And I will ask them, I was actually doing this a little bit with Paulo. While Paulo was giving it to me, you noticed I was writing down what I heard her say, because I could now, because I have done that, I've listened to her carefully, I could give her value proposition back to her. So I can actually reframe it back to her. So we give it back and forth, back and forth. That is very powerful. So there are a bunch of things, but it's got to be positive. It's got to be positive. We have time for one.
Any other question for Curtis? No? Okay, so can we finish here, Curtis?
I guess we're finished. Listen, thank you, gang. Appreciate it. Thank you for your enthusiasm and good spirit. Paul, thank you
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. NABC.
Thank you very much.
Remember that one thing.
Yes, we won't forget it.
Okay. Be good. Ciao. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.